The Pistons are the basketball champions of the world.
Detroit, it's time. It's playoff time, Detroit. Let's go to work.
Shout out Detroit. I got to buff up, you know what I'm saying? Detroit, I'm all the way in. Detroit Pistons, I'm all the way in. Let's do it.
What up, dope Pistons fans? Welcome to another episode of the Buffs On Podcast. We are the best POD in the 313. If you don't believe us, go check out our article on voyagemichigandmagazine.com. If you want to learn more about the Buffs On Podcast, shout out to them for reaching out and doing a piece on us. We really enjoyed it.
Doing a piece on you, Amit.
Nah.
Doing a piece on you.
It was all of us. It's all of us. We all make up this pod, and that's what makes us the best POD in the 313. But we are talking Detroit Pistons basketball. We have some bigger news. The Pistons have not just one All-Star representative next weekend, but they have two All-Star representatives next weekend, maybe three if Malik Beasley enters the three-point contest. Asar Thompson recently being named to the Rising Stars team, and Cade Cunningham being named an All-Star reserve for the first time in his career. Well-deserved. I think we all called it at the beginning of the season. This is the kind of season we were expecting from Cade. It's nice to know that he did not get snubbed. I was watching it, and they went like 2-3 names in, and I'm like, there's no way they're going to snub Cade right now. But it happened. We'll go, Connie, you're first on my screen here. How are we feeling about Cade Cunningham being named to his first of many All-Star teams?
I mean, how else can you feel but fantastic, man? This is what it's all about. We got a 23-year-old guy that the Pistons drafted that wants to be here, that just got selected to his first All-Star game. And, you know, it's not one of those All-Star selections where people are arguing about snubs. They're never arguing the snub against Cade, you know what I mean? Like, he's there. He deserves to be there. I mean, it's been awesome, obviously. And I think this goes to something that we don't talk about as much on this pod. We usually stick to talking about how fantastic he is at basketball and leading this team. But Cade's been on the floor pretty much dang near this whole season. He's out there game in, game out, leading this team to the W's that they are getting. And that's not something that you could say about the guy in previous years, and not only leading this team, but leading this team from the jump. You know, the team got off to a little bit of a slow start and picked it up, but like Cade has been hooping from the get-go, and that's also not something that we could say about him in the previous seasons. And I it is just like a level of consistency and professionalism from this guy that I just, you know, there's no reason this man's not going to be an all-star for the next however long he wants to be an all-star, you know? This is fantastic.
Yeah, and this year's as a reserve, next year potentially, maybe in the next couple of years as a starter. Valley, your reaction to Cade being named an All-Star?
Nothing but joy. Nothing but extreme joy seeing Halliburton not make the team. And Cade make. I thought that was a good little chuckle after that game against Indiana. But yeah, Cade this season, like you said, Connie, has been there since the get-go. I think this was what Cade has been doing up until this point of the season was every single Pistons fan's hopes and dreams coming into this year. Over this last offseason, we were hoping in some dream world. Cade has played every game. He's averaging 24, 7, and 9. 25. He's now at the 25 mark. Am I lagging out? Okay, 25, 7, and 9. I think that was really like the dream for us Pistons fans. And I think had you have said that, I think he probably would have been looked at a little crazy. Like, how's he going to take that big of a jump? This guy played 12 games last year. But for Cade particularly, it seems like everything has been going right. But when I say everything's been going right, he's had to fight through a lot of struggles. I mean, this team was 1-5 in their first 6 games. It took a while till we won a game. He's had to go through his own personal struggles and came out of that on top. We've had to go through a really, really difficult injury to our 1B, Jaden Ivey, and now we're finding a way to really regroup this team and still be very competent. It all comes from Cade Cunningham. He has taken that challenge to be the leader of this team. He has taken it upon himself to really bring Detroit basketball back. I think he knows the potential he has to really leave a legacy here. He knows how highly he's thought of amongst Pistons legends, people within the Pistons, Coach Bickerstaff, obviously, his teammates. There's just a unison that everybody's on board and so happy with the fact that that Cade is the franchise. Cade is the guy. We're happy about that. His teammates are happy and calling him the franchise. And they're happy because Cade makes players around him better. This is a very deserving all-star nod because it's not like, and I'm not disrespecting him. I think like I know he didn't make the team, but LaMelo Ball, an amazing player, but really high volume scorer. The debate is there if he makes the guys around him better. I think with Cade, he just has that gene, that gene that superstars, guys like LeBron have, where he makes his teammates just considerably better. And he always does the right play. He always makes the winning play. This All-Star nod was so thoroughly deserved. First one since 2018, a solid 7-year break from us. I wanted to look up. I couldn't find any data on the longest pauses for a team without an All-Star. I was wondering if we were in that conversation, and I was running it through in my head, and I'm like, it doesn't seem that long, but it might be. Um, but yeah, like you said, Kanye, it's really nice to see like people aren't going, "Oh, why did Cade make it?" No, like not, I haven't seen a single, even those stupid accounts where I scroll for like forever on the Instagram comments, nothing. And I think that really speaks for his performance as himself. I think he could have easily been a starter. He could have easily started over Brunson for me, but not gonna complain. I'll leave that for the next 10 consecutive All-Star appearances. So happy for Cade, so happy for this team, man.
Cade Cunningham saying it himself that he wants his own era of Detroit basketball, and this is the start of that. Shout out again, once again, Cade Cunningham for his first career All-Star appearance. Let's talk about Asar Thompson being named to the Rising Stars game. Speaking of snubs, Ron Holland, I believe, was snubbed from the Rising Stars team. I don't know why he was not one of the rookies that made it, but hey, it is what it is. Detroit versus everybody. Asar Thompson making it as a replacement because of injuries, and Victor Wembanyama being named to not only the regular All-Star team, but the Rising Stars team as well. And he can only compete for one due to this year's format of the teams playing each other. So worked out for Asar Thompson. I start with Valley this time. How have you felt about Asar Thompson, and how do you think he's going to perform during All-Star weekend?
Um, I, I I don't think he'll play a crazy amount. I do think that Asar would have theoretically been a lock had he not had the extreme health concern and potentially had he been available at the start of this season. I think the fact that he came into this season missing the first several games and being on a minute restriction for a while and still potentially maybe being worked up to the level he's at were the main reasons as to why he wasn't initially on this team. Happy he made it as a substitute, but I mean, when you look at this roster up and down, it's actually difficult to say like, oh, Ron should have made it over this guy, Asar should have made it over this guy. There's a lot of talented players, a lot of really solid role players, and when you look at the output in terms of the minutes in particular that we're getting out of a guy like Ron Holland. I think I saw he's 25th in the league in terms of rookie minutes per game, which obviously is no knock on him whatsoever, but that just means 24 other rookies are playing more basketball than him and considerable more basketball than him. And Ron is a guy that comes in and came in still a bit iffy on the jumper, even though it looks pretty good and just a really raw prospect. So as big of a shame it is not to see Ron, and as much as I think Ron on paper is going to have much better careers than these guys and could potentially even be much better right now, I do understand as to why he didn't make it because he isn't there in total minutes per game. And the same goes for Asar. He missed several games, was on a really tight minutes constriction, still isn't even playing, huge minutes right now. So therefore, like I get the reasoning as to why they're not on it, but this is not something I have a concern with in the least bit. Asar in particular, you go up and down this roster of everyone in this game other than Wemby, like he's at the top of it in terms of every category pretty much. That goes for Ron and Asar, I would say. I'm gonna be really excited to see Asar. I'm definitely gonna see some pretty sweet lobs because I'm assuming it's another year of people not playing any defense. So let's see what Asar can do throwing some stuff down, man. That'd be really fun.
Also, the Thompson twins will be on the same team, which is also exciting.
Okay, that'll be pretty dang exciting. They're for sure gonna make sure they get out there.
Yeah, for
But yeah,
sure.
let's see that freakish athleticism. Asar doesn't do cool dunks despite being 100 feet above the rim. Like they're cool. Like,
Whoa,
okay.
doesn't do cool
He just
dunks.
does two-hand jams. I mean, like, let me see a widget
What
or
about that
something.
dunk over? Was it Bruno Fernet? No.
Peyton
Where he
Watson,
destroyed
Clint
his ankle
Capella,
last year.
Oh,
Yeah,
last year, yeah, Clint
Clint
Capella,
Capella.
yeah.
that
That was like a
one-handed.
rare exception. even that was just a one-hand power jam. I mean, like he could do
what do
like
you
a
want?
backflip and dunk probably, bro. he, he just needs to like have some fun. Like it doesn't matter if you miss. But yeah, like I said, these guys deserve it, and even though Ron didn't make it, they're both very deserving and both very talented amongst their peers.
Connie, anything to add about Asar making the Rising Stars team?
Um, I he deserves it. I
There you
understand.
go.
I agree with Valley. Ron, we all see. I think we believe in him, but you gotta understand. Like that's not get. He's a bench player rookie on the Pistons. Like, uh, you know, that's
I
not
mean, the
getting
way I was looking at it,
from
he's a
me.
bench player on the surprise team in the NBA and getting, I'd say a decent amount of minutes for that surprise team. So I don't know. That was the argument I was making in my head. But yeah, if I take a step back and I look at it from a non-Pistons fan perspective, I 100% see what you guys are saying.
Like he's still only like 6 points, 3 boards, shooting 46 from the field. 46-26. Like it's not something that makes a voter be like, wow,
I mean, those are
yeah,
all-star numbers, if you ask me, man.
those are fucking. Yeah,
Anything else to add on Ron or Asar before we move on into a new bid that Tom Gores has placed?
let's move on.
Let's move on. As much as we love our Detroit basketball, that includes the Detroit Pistons and the Detroit Shock. The Tom Gores being a part of a group that has submitted a bid to bring the Detroit Shock back to Detroit. I think it would be great. I think it's a great time to add the Shock back into the mix. I think, you put them in LCA just like the Pistons do, the Wings do. Like, I feel like it would be an incredible atmosphere. I feel like the city would get behind them just like they did back in the day. I believe it was Bill Lambier who led them to a championship. So I'm here for it. Connie, how you feeling about the Shock potentially making a return to Detroit?
Shock, one of the probably of sports teams ever. Years as a sports team, ratio to championships, it's got to be some of the highest of any team ever made. Like around for a little over a decade, 3 rings, and you vanish. I would love the Shocks back because I like basketball and I feel like I want to get into the WNBA, but I don't like
Yep.
the teams.
Yep.
They're not
Exactly.
like it's like I don't want to root for Indiana. I don't want to root for fucking New York.
For
Like it's gotta be
Vegas.
the
Like
teams. I don't want to root for these cities. And so like uh get me a Detroit Pistons team back in here. Or, no, sorry, not Detroit Pistons. Detroit Shock. Call them whatever you want to call
yeah,
them.
call them whatever. I mean, we could maybe make a case to root for the Mercury because Matt Ishbia is from Detroit, but hey, that's
No,
just
not,
yeah,
that's not good enough for
it's
me.
not good enough. We need a team from
Because
Detroit.
some billionaires from Michigan. I'm not rooting for that man's team.
Exactly. I'm for it. I'm for it. Valley, your thoughts on the Shock potentially returning? I believe they moved to Tulsa a few years back, but hopefully returning. What do you think?
They did indeed. This is actually some of the best news. This made me really smile because I graduated about a month ago, and one of my final projects was to make a documentary on a topic of my choice in my Detroit sports culture class, and it was about the Detroit Shock. Um, can link the video if you guys need.
I
But
think
it
Yeah,
was a
let me
I
really
see
want to
that.
watch
Let
it.
me see that.
yeah, I can find a way to get it. But yeah, so I had a previously before that absolutely almost no knowledge of the Shock, which was kind of sad to me. Like thinking about it, but now I think I have a very good understanding of the Shock and what bringing the Shock back would do is really symbolized, I think, with the rise that what Detroit has, and we always say that, but I think they would really provide so much representation for women's sports and women's basketball. And you talk about them moving to Tulsa. One of the main reasons they moved to Tulsa was because of the severe economic crisis in Michigan, and particularly in Detroit at the time. I forget the statistics in particular, but despite them being such a successful team, they couldn't afford to be there because of the economic crisis in Detroit. And this was when Detroit officially declared bankruptcy. Since then, Detroit has come a really long ways, and obviously has trended heavily away from bankruptcy, meaning bringing this team back is a very viable option at this current moment in time. And I think bringing this back is just needed. I mean, 3 championships. Like, would Bill Laimbeer come back to coach this team? I think that'd be something really cool. But one thing that was so cool about the Shock, because Laimbeer was their coach and because they were obviously in Detroit, they played with that same grit and grind that the Bad Boys did, that the Going to Work team did. They brought that same exact motto, that same energy, that same culture. So I think it'd be reciprocated should the Shock come back. I am all for this. I think the Little Caesars Arena would be a fantastic venue for the Detroit Shock. I think I would be at multiple games per season. I think my WNBA viewership would go through the roof. I think I'd be a pretty big fan of this team. The Shock had some sweet jerseys in the past. Bring those jerseys back. Maybe even some of your former players, like I don't know, Jana Nolan or something, can come back and coach. I think that'd be really great. Um, I think Tom Gores over the years has been criticized so much about his role as an owner, but genuinely, like the last few years at least, like yeah, he might still be, you know, a lot of baggage that has come with Tom Gores, a lot of criticism about him being drunk at games or apparently a lot of association with some harder substances and being in LA and everything and not showing up to many games. But
Yeah,
I
I
will
was
say,
trying to take it easy on him, Valley. That's what I was trying to do.
but credit
Get us
has to be
canceled,
given to the
brother.
guy because even last year when you look at the signing of Monty Williams, at the time I think in unison all Pistons fans were delighted, and he went out and paid that huge check to Monty Williams to supposedly getting this elite coach to take us to the next level. Like he went out and did that for the team, and he went out and ate that contract because Monty didn't want to be here. And you look at the work that we're doing in the community. The Pistons are fantastic for their community and are a big reason as to why Detroit is trending in the direction they are. So like a very rare instance, I want to say, good work, Tom Gores. Bringing the Shock back would be amazing, amazing for the team, for the city. I am all for it. Catch me on opening night. You have my claim right now. If you're back, I'm there.
I love it. I love it. We're about 25 minutes from tip off from the Pistons facing off the Mavericks at Little Caesars Arena for Isaiah Stewart bobblehead night, where he is actually suspended for getting his sixth technical foul of the season against the Pacers. But before we continue, I don't think we did this since last month, but shout out Valley for graduating. Very, very impressive accomplishment for you.
Thank you
Um,
very much, guys. Thank
uh,
you.
yeah, we can't wait to see what great things you do for the community and the Pistons when you work for them one day and getting us free tickets. But uh, moving on, let's talk about the recent skid that the Pistons are on. It may not be that big of a skid considering we've only lost 3 consecutive, but those 3 losses have felt heated. They have felt more like gut punches than losses, and they have had a little bit of heartbreak in between. So, Connie, I start with you. How have you felt about the last few Piston games, and what do you think is one of the main issues that we are facing at the moment?
I mean, I think the main issue we're facing is secondary ball handler. Like teams have at this point figured out that Cade's going to be the one that does the thing, and nobody else can really dribble that well. And so you're seeing a lot more doubles on Cade, early pressures, trapping him out. Indiana did that once successfully with Miles Turner, where they got the turn, they forced the 8 second. There's just a lot more ball pressure on him again, and he's handling it okay. He's getting a lot of turnovers, and I think teams are capitalizing on that. I think our offense has be at least a little bit predictable in some ways at this point. Like we're really just missing Ji. He would solve a lot of these problems for us, and like we also haven't played bad teams over this stretch either. Like one of the losses is to the first seed Cavs. We got the Magic when they got both their guys back, Franz and Paulo. And then we had the Pacers, who are a great hot team. Like the part that sucks about this is that we have serious beef with the Magic and the Pacers, and we really want to beat those guys. And like when you're tough, you got to win these games.
You do, you do. Those losses kind of did hurt me for sure. I will say that personally. You did hint at the one issue that I think that we're going to touch on in a little bit when it comes to the trade deadline that is on February 6th. But Valley, do you have anything to add on those losses before we move into the ball handling concerns?
I definitely do. But just I feel like Orlando, I feel like we don't really have I don't know, like there was that little thing with Stu, but I feel like Stu didn't even do anything there, and I feel like the other guy got a T for that, if I'm not mistaken. I think the only thing there is just Cole Anthony, officially labeled a dirty player, by the way, having yet again done it to Kamara on the Blazers and
And
had a
Shaden
similar thing
Sharp.
to, huh?
And Shaden Sharp.
And Shaden Sharp.
Twice in the same
So
game.
I would like to go back to our previous pod where we said Cole Anthony's innocent, because I even said it. No, he's not. F you,
Oh, by the
you're a
way,
dirty ass player. Huh?
that was a fake tweet. That was an account impersonating Ivy. The where he said everything was cool with Cole Anthony, but he hasn't said anything bad. But that was a fake tweet, and I wanted to rescind that information because I think I brought that to the pod.
You did.
Um, I mean, do you not remember your glorious king, Killian Hayes, hitting Mo Wagner in the back of the head?
Yeah,
I
there's
think
that.
I think they might remember that a little bit as
The
well.
Paolo game winner over Jalen Duren, where he actually traveled before he hit the game winner.
Um, yeah, I know. I do get that, but at the same time, we don't got to get in that one from years ago. But yeah, the tough loss to Orlando, really tough loss I thought as well to Indiana. That one was brutal. And like you said, missing a ball handler was so evident. Them locking us up just on top of everything in the early stages, forcing that 8-second violation, which is like, man, they're just all over us. I think having another ball handler would. I mean, we've been saying this for a little bit now.
I
Is so needed. I almost wonder if there's a way to get around it. I don't know. I wonder if I just want to float the ideas out of tweaking the starting lineup. I know Beasley isn't a ball handler, but he's shown capabilities of handling that ball better than anyone else, really. And
We
the
are
season
also giving
go,
Asar more ball handling responsibility
they
than the
have.
last few games too. So, any notes
And
on that?
I
he's
don't.
not great at it.
He's not very great at it. He's too quick. He's too quick to have a good handle right now. But one other thing, and obviously the next question would be, oh, what do you do with your bench? I would almost consider Marcus Sasser in the starting lineup because I think another ball handler is just so
But
pivotal to.
then your backup unit, you have absolutely nothing.
Then you
Nothing.
do, but then you can also, pull Sasser out maybe the 6-7 minute mark for Bees, even
That good
earlier, and
guy.
then get B.
Yeah,
It,
kind
it,
of
it
like what
could
we
be
were doing with
doable.
Ivy. It
I
could
mean, we're
be.
we were doing it when we had Ivy. I
Yeah,
don't know.
Sasser's not Ivy.
He's not Ivy, but what he is a point guard, and he's the only true point guard in this roster outside of Cade. Um,
I think
it's
he's more of a scorer than a point guard. I think I would just love to like take all ball handling responsibility away from Marcus Sasser and just let the man score. Honestly, that's just my 2 cents, though.
I fully see what you're saying. I just think something needs to be done. Whether that's via trade, and then when you say via trade, it's like, oh, who are you gonna send away in this team? Who do you want to send away in this team? Is it via sticking together and adjusting the lineup? Okay, interesting. And then what's that going to look like? But I think that this recent skid, albeit against very good teams, for the most part, I will say, this skid is starting to really shine the light on the fact that, okay, we had some wins and we had an initial surge, but we missed Jaden Ivey, and there more than likely needs to be a solution because he's more than likely out for the whole year. A solution has to come unless we're really going to tail off as the season goes on because Cade is just being incredibly overworked. So I have the stats of the splits of Cade Cunningham with Ivy injury and then post Ivy injury. This is minus Indiana, so I guess that only bolstered his statistics. But in 13 games post Ivy injury, he's gone down in minutes per game. He's gone from 35.9 to 34.9 minutes per game. However, his usage rate has gone from 31 to 36. So a minute less, but an increased usage rate. He's averaging 27 points a game. That's a plus 4.2 increase. He's shooting the ball more overall. He's shooting 3% worse from the 3-point line, though, but he is shooting better inside the arc. His turnovers are down. He's being asked to score more, as is assist to turnover ratio. His plus minus a plus 5.3 as compared to a previous negative 1.5, quite interestingly. So you can see statistically he's actually interestingly taken a leap. But I do still think that wear and tear is getting to him now. And I just think although he could do it, it's a really big ask for him to do this all the way up until the play-in playoffs or whatever we have.
and
And
beyond.
it's a huge, huge ask for him. Um, and that's why I just, the more we overwork him as well, the higher risk we have of him, God forbid, picking up another injury or anything, even if it is minor. So therefore, I think it's just really important that we address the situation and take matter accordingly.
So let's talk about addressing that situation. The trade deadline on February 6th, a name that is being floated around as a potential target for the Pistons, and the Pistons have expressed interest in this guy, is a Chicago Bull, but not the one you're probably thinking of. This time, it's not Zach LaVine, it's Lonzo Ball. The trade that has also been floated around as the mock trade is Simone Fontecchio and a 2026 second rounder for Lonzo Ball. Connie, I kick it over to you. How are we feeling about the potential addition of Lonzo Ball?
I would absolutely love Lonzo Ball on this team. I gotta say, he is. I mean, not a, he would be able to take some of that ball handling responsibility. He can shoot the ball. He can. I don't know. I really don't know how well he's moving nowadays, but he's kind of getting back into the swing of things. I don't think he would take a lot to get, and he would just provide a little bit of just good. He's not like a great player, but he's a good player, and I think he could be a good connective piece at this point. He could like we are our best when we get out and run, and he's very good at outlet passing and getting the break going. So I think he could fit in and provide a nice little spark for this team.
Not only that, reunite him with the man that fixed his jump shot in Fred Vinson. Valley, any thoughts on adding Lonzo Ball to this roster?
I would love the addition of Lonzo Ball to this roster, and he is a pure point guard. I think some of the other guys, at least one of the other guys, that I would particularly really like to have in terms of a guard on this team is a very different kind of player. And Lonzo would come in and he would do exactly what we need. He would pass the ball, he would facilitate, and he would take the ball off of Cade Cunningham when we need to, when he needs to rest. Not only could he potentially start, I theoretically, he won't. He will come off the bench and really be a fantastic playmaker to the second unit team. Um, that jumpers look pretty good. Now that he's finally been back, and that playmaking ability. I mean, units with it where he's with Asar or Ron, where he can just hit these guys who are just hustling. Even if he finds himself some minutes with Jalen Duren, that lob threat will obviously be there. Um, I would be a huge fan of Lonzo Ball on this team. There is some risk with his injury record, and we don't know how long. He's going to be healthy. You hope he is, and for his sake, you hope he is, and for the Pistons' sake, you hope he is. I'd be all for Lonzo Ball. I think he'd be a great addition.
Any other potential names that you guys have out there before we look at the next few games
I
and see if the Pistons can snap the skid that they're on?
Absolutely, I do. Again, I on Thursday next week, I think it'd be great to get a full in-depth podcast on the trade deadline. But
Do
a
it.
guy I've had my eye on for a little bit now is Colin Sexton. I think he's a really underrated player. Again, not like that true point guard mold. It has like a Marcus Sasser kind of mold where he wants to score, and that's what he's going to be looking to do. But even since he's been in Cleveland, I thought Sexton's been a really good player. There were a few rumors of us looking for him when he was still a Cleveland Cavalier. He also, like, speaking of Detroit grit, like this guy has it. I mean, all the way back to when he was in college and he was on a current 4v5. I don't remember what extreme circumstances there were that his
The
team was
3v5.
it was a 3v5, and you can just see him just living it, just dogging it. He's got that Detroit grit. I think he'd be a fantastic player, even if when Ivy comes back, like, okay, move Sexton to the bench. Colin Sexton, Lonzo Ball, and I think less probable, but still possible, just because of his contract. Malcolm Brogdon, I think, are three guys I'd really like to look at. CJ McCollum, I've heard a name float around a little bit. If the Pelicans
Mm-hmm.
do something, I would love CJ McCollum, but again, that's probably something where you have to probably send out more. And I don't know if Trajan Langdon really wants to separate this team that drastically.
That's fair. That's fair. Malik Beasley. We also don't know which direction we are going to approach this deadline with. Some people say we're buyers, but a recent quote coming out from Malik Beasley saying that he has talked to Trajan and that there is a possibility that Malik Beasley is sent out to a more serious contender. But if he does stay post deadline, he said he is willing to talk about his future more long term in Detroit. But some people have also been saying that the Pistons are in need of a stretch five. I know, Connie, that you weren't so keen on this name before we started recording, so I'll pass it to Valley first. How would you feel about the addition of a Bobby Portis?
Um, Again, like off that bench, a Stu Bobby Portis little 4-5 combo could be pretty nice. A lot of energy there, but
We
I
still lack
don't
that size, but like
I
we
don't
can
think
just
I'm
get
going Bobby.
basic.
That's why I think you do lack that size. I think if you go all out for a stretch five, I think Miles Turner would be attainable in the future here.
That's the guy I want. I mean, I've been saying it for years. Miles
You
Turner,
have
Jaren Jackson Jr. are two guys that I think would fit this team pretty well. So,
You say Jaron Jackson Jr.?
what, you don't want it?
No, yeah, I
yeah,
love
I'll take
Jaron
him.
Jackson Jr.
Oh,
I
okay,
think he'd
okay. I'm
fit
just saying.
great.
Yeah. I mean, just throw like a second or two to Memphis and pick him up. I
Yeah,
know it's super easy, but
take him off their hands.
We'll take
yeah,
him off your shoulders.
yeah, I know he's such a burden, but yeah, I floated the idea of Miles Turner in the chat. Just watching him destroy us. Um,
Well, yeah, destroy Duran because he doesn't guard him. But
yeah, exactly.
even then, like, I'm not sold. I wouldn't be. I get the argument for Miles Turner and like the spacing you'd give Cade, and you'd still have that roller and cutter and Asar.
And a rim protector on the other end of the floor as well.
But yeah, but I don't know. There's still like I've seen a few Pacer fans complain about his consistency. Obviously his ability to stay on the court due to injury. And overall, like he seems to like I've seen a few people complain about him being a bit soft. Like one night he'll be a great rim protector, another night he won't whatsoever. I don't know. I think it's especially I think we see the best of him because he only shoots wide open threes against us because we don't guard big men who shoot.
This is fair.
Um, he's proven a lot, Miles Turner. Don't get me wrong, very good player. I'm not sold on going all out for him though. But if we do need to stretch five, he would probably be the top of my list.
That's fair. Connie, any other names you want to throw into the hat before we look at the next few games for the Pistons?
No.
No? All right. Well, again, deadline February 6th, next Thursday. We will do a pod either right before then, that day. We'll maybe do an emergency pod. We will have to wait and see. A lot can happen in the next week. The Pistons play a lot of games within the next week, so I guess we'll just go with this. We start today against the Dallas Mavericks before playing the Bulls on Sunday. Then, who do we got after that? Then Atlanta comes back into town. So hopefully a little 2-game win streak there on the second and the third. Then Cleveland comes to town. Then Philly comes to town, and then it's the deadline. Or that's the game after the deadline. So we'll hold it there. So we got.
Should we just do the homestand?
Yeah, we could just do the homestand. So we'll go. I mean, it's kind of a homestand. We go. It is a homestand. You're right. We'll
Just
go.
Charlotte is the last game in there.
Oh, did I miss Charlotte too? Yeah, I forgot about Charlotte.
After Philly is Charlotte.
After Philly is Charlotte. So,
Dallas, Chicago, Atlanta, Cleveland, Philadelphia, Charlotte.
There you go. Yep. I made the post about that. I just forgot. So you're right. That is the homestand here. I feel like we can pick up at least 2 to 3 wins on that homestand. Chicago, Atlanta, Charlotte. I think those 3 we need to win if we want to at least be considered as semi-legitimate contenders.
I don't know. I'm pretty confident about the set of games. I think the most difficult task is probably going to be Cleveland, but tonight will be a big test against Dallas. Philly's been playing some good basketball, but 6 games, I'm ready for 4 of these wins.
Ooh, okay. I'm going 3-3. Valley goes 4-2. Connie, where are you going with this one?
6-0.
I'm looking through these games and I want to say 4-2 with losses to the Mavs and the Cavs. But I feel like being a negative Nancy, so I'm gonna go 2-4.
Oh boy.
Boo.
Boo. All right. Well, Pistons fans, let us know what you are thinking. Interact with us on social media. Any other notes that you guys want to touch on before we get out of here and watch the Pistons hopefully take down the Dallas Mavericks at Little Caesars Arena? Yeah. All right.
Markel Fultz.
Yeah, that too. We don't need to make a trade. Once again, guys, please go check out our article on voyagemichigandmagazine.com. It is linked. We will talk about. I'll post a link on social media if you want to check that out. But also just look on Buffs on podcast Voyage Magazine Michigan. Follow us on all of our social media platforms. We got great content coming out for you guys. All-Star Weekend's right around the corner, and I gotta end by saying this. I'll say what I normally say: throw the Buffs on Detroit. The future is bright. But I think we gotta end this particular episode by saying Cade Cunningham is an all-star.